Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds, I'm Nerdarchy Dave, and today I'm joined by this nerd.
Nerdarchy Ted, how you doing this fine and lovely evening, sir?
Tired, but other than that, good. Probably not as tired as you though.
Yeah, it's been a long day. We're deep into typical warehouse work for the holiday. So nothing like working, 50, 60 hours and then having to get one day off before you start it all over again.
Yeah, I gotta love it. So, with that, I'm sure folks don't really care about us working in warehouses, as exciting as that is. I mean, think of all the mimics you could store there. Uh,
Hmm.
but we're gonna be talking about rogues for the 2024 Player's Handbook. And yeah, there's some slight changes, some significant changes, but all in all, Rogue is still one of the best classes in the game, and that much I can tell you has not changed.
Yeah, I looked at it and I'm like, of course the rogue got better. While, the ranger was like, okay, you stay over there.
Yeah, more of the same. All right, so all the basic core stuff for the Rogue, the class features, all of those are basically the same. The hit die, the skills. There's nothing new and improved there. At first level, you get expertise just like you did before. It's the same. Um, you also they did codify the language a little bit, so that now expertise always just says expertise, because there's definitely times when they would basically give you would get an ability in the game, and it would be expertise, but they wouldn't call it expertise. They would just spell out how the mechanics work. But
Yeah.
it does seem like they're codifying it so that it is always just expertise, so that people are like, does this double again? Does it triple? How does this actually work? To kind of clarify. And I've seen it like by the designers written different ways. No, it
Right.
doesn't stack. A doubling is a times three. So I think that makes things a little bit easier. You get your sneak attack, it's the same. Thieves can't is the same, plus you get an additional language. Uh,
I was like,
so
I was like, oh yes, even more things to take out of a level one
hmm.
rogue. If you want a level dip,
But we're
you're gonna
not
get the
done
expert
yet.
and you also get two weapon masters.
You get two weapon masteries, making a first level rogue pretty sweet grab.
Absolutely. So getting thieves can't and an additional language. It's like, oh, you've picked up various languages in the communities where you plied your roguish talents. So whether you're, trying to stop criminals or become criminals, it's like, well, a lot of extra lingo. And I'm like, really? Why? Get right off the bat. It's like, all right, Ranger, I'm gonna slap you in the face.
Yeah, pretty much. Second level, cunning action, still one of the coolest abilities in the game, and they still get it. But at third level, they get what was an optional ability, which is actually a really good one. And Ted was kind enough to let me use it in his game where I was playing an archer character, and that is steady aim. So basically, as a bonus action, you can just, as long as you don't move, you get advantage on your next attack, which is key to sneak attacking for a rogue at times.
So if you're all about the ranged attacks, steady aim is absolutely amazing. It's like, oh, I don't have an ally close. Crap, I'll just not move.
Or it's
I'll
for
just
some reason you have disadvantage, but you do have an ally close. If you steady aim, it eliminates the disadvantage, and now you can get a sneak attack where you couldn't.
indeed. So all in all, fantastic ability, thus allowing, rogues to be even more broken.
Well, in that case, we have to talk about Cunning Strike at fifth level, completely new feature and ability. We're gonna have to read this one.
All right.
It's actually cool and fun,
I,
but
I
again,
really
like,
I really like it.
but you're
Even though it's
like,
a
can you just give it to the ranger? Throw him something.
so I mean, do you want me to read the whole paragraph or just read the individual effects?
You can read the whole paragraph, give people
All
a
right, so
sense of
you've
what it
developed
is.
cunning ways to use your sneak attack. When you deal sneak attack damage, you can add one of the following cunning strike effects. Each effect has a die cost, which is the number of sneak attack dice you must forego to add the effect. You remove the die before rolling, and the effect occurs immediately after the attack's damage is dealt. For example, if you add the poison effect, you remove 1d6 from the sneak attack's damage before rolling. The Cunning Strike effect requires a saving throw. The DC equals 8 plus your Dex mod and proficiency bonus. So the first one is poison. All of the first spot abilities cost 1d6. Poison, you add a toxin to your strike, forcing the target to make a con save. On a failed save, they add the poison condition for a minute, and at the end of each of its turns, the poison target can repeat the saving throw to end the effect. To use this, you must have a poisoner's kit on your person. But each of these things don't take any additional action. It's just a thing. Trip, if the target is large or smaller, has to succeed on a dex save or have the prone condition. And then withdraw. Immediately after the attack, you move up to half your speed without provoking opportunity attacks. So each of those costs 1d6, and the fact that you're level 5, so you got 3 to play with, so you could be like, all right, well, I'm gonna use 2 dice and one of these cool effects, each time.
Yeah, it makes the already fairly versatile rogue even more versatile. And now it's like you got all kinds, and also like the trip is versus dexterity, not strength. So
right,
I feel like that's kind of a big deal. Especially you have shovers in your party, and you have a strong opponent, so their shove isn't going to be effective. Well, the rogue can come in and trip them instead.
So are we talking ogre over here? Because I know ogres have crap for dex.
Yeah, I mean anything that's really strong, or zombies. All day long zombies.
But we also get uncanny dodge at 5th level, which is the same thing as it used to be. It's still incredibly ridiculously broken.
I mean, I get sometimes like a lot of
I played a game on Friday afternoon, and the rogue player in that game was like, oh, where they had killed a dragon on the last session, and now it was a session of looting the dragon's lair. So there was all kinds of stuff around. There was all kinds of traps and hazards and what have you. And like, oh, this effect does damage. So it's like, all right, well, I pass my saving throw, so I take half damage, and then I use my reaction, I take, half again. So that thing that did, 32 points of damage, yeah, I'll take 8.
Like, you just have to constantly have people run by the rogue once they hit 5th level to either use their reaction to take their attack of opportunity, or be like, oh, I bet you wish you had that reaction still. So you can do.
It requires serious, playing around to.
But the rogue is all about doing damage and mitigating damage. Like that's what they do.
And they're really good at it. But they're also a skill monkey, which means they're good at a lot of other things as well.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, 6th level expertise, same as before. 7th level evasion, same as before. C, really good at mitigating damage. So got to make a dex save. If you fail, you take half. If you succeed, you take none. Also at 7th level, this one was kind of shocking. They get reliable talent, which they used to get it at 11th level.
Yeah, I was gonna say, didn't it used to be the second half of the game?
Yeah. Now you get it fairly early in comparison, 4 levels, and you can't roll. I think if you roll a 9 or under, it's a 10.
Yep. Anything that you are proficient with that's a skill or a tool, you can treat a roll of 9 or lower as a 10.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's really crazy for them to get that at 7th.
But they've replaced their 11th level ability with
improved Cunning Strike.
Yes.
You can now use 2 of your effects when you do sneak attack damage, but you still have to pay the die cost for both.
Yeah, but you have more options. You also have more dice at this point as well.
Right. So at 11th level, it's 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. So you're at 6. So it's not bad to be like, all right, I can still do 4d6, and I can, give them a trip and and a poison.
14th level, they get devious strikes, and we might as well just read them and talk about them because they're kind of cool.
Absolutely. You've practiced new ways to use your sneak attack deviously. The following effects are now among your Cunning Strike options. So you've got Daze, which costs 2d6. The target must succeed on a con saving throw on its next succeed on a Constitution saving throw, or on its next turn, it can only do one of the following: move, take an action, or a bonus action. only gets one of those things. So it's really good to limit your villain options. Knockout, it costs 6 die 6. The target must succeed on a Constitution saving throw or have the unconscious condition for 1 minute or until it takes any damage. The unconscious target repeats the saving throw at the end of each of its turn, ending the effect on it on a success. Or obscure costs 3 die 6. The target must succeed on a dex saving throw or have the blinded condition until the end of its next turn.
Yeah, so more fun options for the rogue to spend their sneak attack dice on, and also personally, I like them being able to trade uh sneak attack dice as a resource. I think it's really
Yes.
cool. Although we're kind of like poo-pooing on the rogue a little bit, but only because they're already so good and one of the more popular classes in the game, and they're always pretty effective.
Right.
And it's like, it would have been nice to see, like you said, some of this love go maybe to the ranger.
My only problem, like I said, I have no issue with what's here. It's a great class, great set. Rogue and Paladin are the two strongest classes in the game for obviously different reasons. Um, but my issue with conceptually their cunning strikes are there is no resource expenditure when you get to say the battle master.
Yeah.
You know, the battle master should be like, oh, can I forego an attack to do an effect over here that because it would be the same kind of thing. It's a trade off where here like they can just do a trip attack every single time if they
We
want.
and we even
Where
saw the paladin get kind of pulled back a little bit, right?
mhm.
But with the rogue, for some reason, they're like pedal to the metal, baby, and we're going all the way.
So I like I said, it's a powerhouse class, and
Yeah.
they just
Oh, I
continue
will
to
say
dial it
they
up.
did get a nerf at 14th level. They used to get blind sense. That's gone.
Sure, and I understand why that went away, but all in all, I still feel they're winning.
Oh yeah, they're
You know
they're
the
they're ahead. They didn't really lose much. But as a
how,
consolation prize at 15th level,
they,
they get Slippery Mind, which got better.
your cunning mind is exceptionally difficult to control. You gain proficiency in wisdom and charisma saving throws.
It used to just
Holy
be
crap!
wisdom.
Now you've got 4 proficiencies from this class. Two good and two not. I mean it's not paladin or sorry, not monk getting all of
Yeah,
them, but 4 out of the 6. That's pretty nice.
it's not bad. Elusive at 18th level is the same ability they used to get. Um, so 20th level, their capstone ability is Stroke of Luck. It's mostly the same. I guess we should look at them both. If you want to look at the new one, and I'll look at the old one, and we can kind of talk about it a little bit.
Sure. So you have a marvelous knack for succeeding when you need to. If you fail a D20 test, you can turn the roll into a 20. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest.
One thing for sure, they made the language much more concise on it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for sure. Um, what it used to say, as a 20th level, you have an uncanny knack for succeeding when you need to. If an attack misses a target within range, you can turn the miss into a hit. Alternatively, you fail an ability check, you can treat the D20 roll as a 20. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. So my question is, because the roll just becomes a 20, did you crit?
Yes.
Yeah. I,
The specific wording says you can turn the roll into a 20. So therefore, it specifically is calling out
yep.
the roll is a 20. Therefore, that means it landed on a 20. You crit, whether you're succeeding on a saving throw, whether you're critting an attack roll. Uh,
Which, I
the
mean, critting as a rogue is always a big deal. Because
less less so by the core mechanics, but still nice.
yeah, because it does, the sneak attack damage doesn't get doubled.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's not that big of a deal now, but they definitely called it out and upgraded it from from what it was before.
Completely. And it's, incredibly more streamlined, which is important for newcomers to be able to not get bogged down by wordage. So, all in all, strong class. I think it does have a little bit of a, spit at the battle master, but it's not enough that I, feel like I got to shake my fist or what have you. Rogue's always been a strong class, and it stays that way.
Well, I guess you could if you wanted to. I mean, I won't stop you. So, yeah. So,
So
all
we're
right.
getting into subclasses.
We are getting into subclasses, starting with Arcane Trickster. So
So this is fairly close to what it was before, if I remember correctly.
it is close, but there's some differences. So one, now they used to have only certain schools of magic they could choose from, and then I think they had like one they could choose anything.
Hmm.
Now it's broader range. It's basically you just pick from the wizard's list. Um, Mage Hand Ledger Main to me seems a little bit different.
I mean, to me, I mean, I've never played an arcane trickster, um, but it's like when you cast Mage Hand, you can cast it as a bonus action, and you can make the spectral hand invisible. I don't remember whether it was a bonus action before or not, but I remember it being invisible. And it says you can control the hand as a bonus action, and through it, you can make dexterity sleight of hand checks. What did it used to say?
All right, so not in order anymore. So starting at third level, at one they made the language a lot more concise. It's almost like they're paying by the word. Starting at third level, when you cast Mage Hand, you can make a spectral hand invisible, and you can perform the following additional tasks with it. Stow one object the hand is holding in a container, worn, or carried by another creature. You can retrieve an object in a container, or worn, or carried by another creature. Use these tools to pick locks, disarm traps at range. You can perform one of these tasks without being noticed by a creature if it succeeds a dexterity sleight of hand check contested by the creature's wisdom perception check. In addition, you can use the bonus action grant by running action to control the hand. So, I don't know. It seems like it did more. Uh,
I think it can still do all of those things. Uh, I think they just streamlined it to be able to say, hey, look, all of those things, if it doesn't require a check, you just
you
can
know, a
use
lot of
them.
this stuff is just in the spell description now,
Uh-huh.
for the most part. Uh, and because it calls out, like, it doesn't call it out as much before.
Mm.
And and perhaps previously, Mage Hand wasn't spelled out quite as well. So let's see, Ledger Main. So it's the language is different. It's more concise, but it's mostly the same. Magical Ambush kind of pointed out to me how hiding and stealth works different now.
Mhm.
Because now when you're hidden, you actually have the invisible condition.
Okay.
Um, and I was like, I saw the language was different, and I was like, okay, why is that? And I went and had to go and look at the stealth skill. Like, oh, that's why, because the new version refers to um when you have the invisible condition. If you cast a spell on someone, they then have disadvantage on a saving throw. So I was like, do you have to be invisible to make this work now? And it's no, it's just the terminology, which I mean, it takes getting used to, but it is a little bit more streamlined.
Sure.
13th level is Versatile Trickster. You know what? This has the same name as the previous edition, but they are different abilities. Uh,
So you gain the ability to distract targets with your mage hand. When you use the trip option of your cunning strike on a creature, you can use that option on another creature within 5 feet of the spectral hand. So basically, you're tripping two people for the cost one, so long as they're close enough together. And based off of my reading, it's not costing you an extra die. You know,
no,
you spend the
no,
one, you
yeah,
spend the one, you trip two. for attempt
Well,
to
the way
trickster.
what it used to be is you gain the ability to distract targets with your mage hand. As a bonus action on your turn, you can designate a creature within 5 feet of the special hand and doing so gives you advantage on attack rolls against the creature till the end of the turn. So basically, you could give yourself the help action with your hand.
Well, I mean, it's now different.
It is now different. Spell Thief, it's the same. You get to steal a spell from someone, they can't use it for 8 hours, and you can if you can cast it.
That's, I mean, to me, reading through this ability as a 17th level rogue ability, but it's really freaking powerful.
Yeah, I guess it depends, on the particular spell you end up stealing, but yes. But it's also kind of fun and thematic for
Sure.
what it is.
The aspect of what you have to do is you have to look at um what are the options. So like my immediate thing was like, oh, what if somebody does, this spell? And I'm like, wait, that wouldn't be cast on you. So maybe that wouldn't work. So I'll throw this your way. What would your opinion be on counterspell? Because they're not casting the spell at you, they're casting it on the spell you're casting. Could you spell thief counterspell or no?
No, because does it say take damage
No. So
or is it the effect?
immediately after a creature casts a spell that targets you or includes you in the area of effect.
I would say it would work. No, it's a no. I was gonna say
Okay.
maybe if they cast it on counterspelled your spell, but even then, it's not affecting you directly.
That was my interpretation as well. But that was my immediate like, what the hell?
Like that would be
Can you
that would be kind of fun though. Be like, okay, like so you just counterspelled. So you just can't, so you just counterspelled me, but instead I steal your counterspell, and we don't have to deal with this for the combat anymore. Oh, but you do. So
Yes.
actually, Ted, you're wrong about critical hits. If
I
they,
am?
yeah, if the attack involves other damage dice, such as from a rogue sneak attack, you also roll those dice twice.
Okay. Well,
You might have been thinking about
I,
one of the revisions that were kind of like floating out in the Unearthed Arcanas.
I was almost, I mean, I was dead certain that was how it went. I guess I gotta, go and read a little bit more in depth about the changes that
Yeah,
were.
I before we like went and said that, I'm like, let me double check and make sure it is that way. So that ability is a lot more potent now.
Yeah, indeed. So that's Arcane Trickster. Fairly solid. One kind of wording change and one kind of tweak, but all in all, still pretty good.
So next up we have the assassin. So assassinate is slightly different, and I think it's a little easier and clearer and easier to understand.
I think so as well.
So I think we should read them.
Absolutely. So you're adept at ambushing a target, granting you the following benefits. You have advantage on initiative rolls, and during the first round of each combat, you have advantage on attack rolls against any creature that hasn't taken a turn. If your sneak attack hits any target during that round, the target takes extra damage of the weapon's type equal to your rogue level.
Okay. So before it used to come up and be kind of like debatable whether or not you could assassinate or not in combat, and I've seen it argued back and forth. Personally, me, I'm very generous as a DM with that stuff. I really don't care. I tend to let the players do the cool thing, so it was never really a problem in our games. Previously, assassinate. Starting third level, you're at your deadliest when you get the drop on enemies. You have advantage on attack rolls against any creature that hasn't taken a turn in combat. In addition, any hit you score against a creature that is surprised is a critical hit. So, basically, if the rogue, gets that sneak attack off, and they have the surprise round, or the enemies have the surprise condition, then they would wreak a lot of havoc, and it came up in my games quite often.
Indeed. So it's definitely nerfed, especially for a low level ability. I imagine there's probably a lot of assassins that are frustrated at that.
Yeah, but at the same
Especially
time, what they get is actually still decent.
sure, but taking the hit
Mm.
that's gonna be a crit, of now we're talking about high level abilities here, potentially high level abilities. Heck, even at third level, that's still, let's say you're using a short sword, that still turns your attack into 6 die 6 plus your dex. Um, so getting an additional 3 die 6 or getting an additional 3 damage.
Oh, it's a big deal.
That's a
And also, the bigger problem was, I believe, like the way it worked before, like the 17th level capstone ability could also be stacked with this as well, which made it
yeah.
even worse. And they're like, "All right, assassin, enough of you." So they get another third level ability, and before it was, and now it's assassin's tools. Before it's this, they get the same thing. They just didn't have the cool name before. Uh,
So you get disguise kit and poisoner's kit. You get proficiency with them. The weird thing about this is it says you gain them, so somehow mysteriously you just get equipment.
oh, it says you gain the
It says you gain a disguise kit and a poisoner's kit,
uh,
and you have proficiency with them. Where normally, like, it's like, oh, you have proficiency with these things.
uh,
I've never seen another ability where it's like, oh, look, I mysteriously acquire equipment.
yeah.
You're a rogue. Maybe you stole it. Maybe somebody traded it to you. I don't know. It's just weird.
Yeah, I mean it's only like 20 to 40 gold anyway, so I was like, yeah.
Sure, I don't care about that part, but
Yeah. You're in the middle of the
story
dungeon.
wise,
You're in the middle of a
yeah.
dungeon where I always had them on me. Uh, I just figured out how to use them. So ninth level, you get infiltration expertise. Same name, different features.
You're an expert at following techniques that aid your infiltration. Masterful mimicry. You can unerringly mimic another person's speech, handwriting, or both if you've spent at least 1 hour studying them. Roving aim. Your speed isn't reduced to 0 by using steady aim. So this ability in both parts is incredibly powerful. And I'm a little annoyed at Masterful Mimicry. There's no skill roll involved to decipher whether or not you've learned this. It's just like, nope, I am so good. I can look at someone for an hour. I don't see them write anything. I don't hear them speak, but I've looked at them for an hour. Now I can do these things. What? It's like, all right, the perfect plan. I'm gonna sneak in and I'm gonna watch him while he sleeps.
Yeah, that's
And
everything.
and as a rogue, like all of those things are completely possible. And it's like, nope. Spent 1 hour studying them
I'm
while they
not
sleep.
I'm not being creepy. But they used to get starting at ninth level an unfailing you can unfailingly create false identities for yourself. You must spend 7 days and 25 gold pieces to establish the history, profession, affiliation for an identity. You can't establish an identity that belongs to someone else. For example, you might acquire appropriate clothing, letters of introduction, official looking certification to establish yourself as a member of a trading house from a remote city. You can insinuate yourself into the company of a wealthy merchant. Thereafter, you adopt a new identity as a disguise. Other creatures believe that you are that person until any given obvious reasons not to.
So
So that's what they
uh,
used to get.
very wordy. I like the fact that it had some language to help set up that kind of stuff. So that could be something to fall back on for DMs who are a little unprepared when you're, trying to do something like that. Even though it's not built into the class anymore,
Yes.
if you've got the the deception skill, you're good at handwriting. Like, sure, I'm gonna have a forger's kit and I'm gonna make something up. That's at least a foundation to build on. Uh, but roving aim, it's too good. Um, the steady aim was a powerful ability to be like, all right, I can get advantage. But at least when you were doing it, you were locked in of like, all right, you can't move. Now to just be like, no, I can still move. I'm just that good. I'm like,
Yeah.
come on, really? So I I'm a little this is too good for a ninth level ability.
But they're rogues. They're supposed to be better than everyone else. Envenom weapon is what they get at 13th level now. That's a new feature.
So this one is fairly straightforward. When you use the poison option of your cutting strike, the target also takes 2d6 poison damage whenever it fails a saving throw. The damage ignores resistance to poison damage. So you are so sneaky that you can poison dwarves without a problem.
Yeah. So at 13th level, they used to get an ability called Imposter. And basically, it's kind of the same ability that they get at ninth level now. Only it took 3 hours of uh, studying these three components of a person's behavior, listening to their speech, and examining handwriting and observing mannerisms. So like it called out like, no, you couldn't just creepily look at them while they sleep for an hour. You had to see them doing the things, and that's probably the way you feel like it should work. And I do too. I think as the DM, it's reasonable to be like, nah, you got to see them doing stuff and interacting or interact with them, or have a whole dossier on them or something of that nature. I would allow that. Like
Right.
if someone collected a dossier of like their handwriting samples and their mannerisms and all that stuff, even if it wasn't them personally, I would give them that.
Right.
And then it was like, and then it gave you advantage on your charisma checks, deception to avoid detection, right? So there was a check to it.
So again, something to build off of, even
Yeah.
though it's previous mechanics. It's something that if you want to muck around with as a not rogue assassin,
Except for if you're
there's
new to the
some.
game, then you don't actually have that. And like you probably don't know.
Sure, but it's out there. There's definitely ways to find those old abilities.
All right.
It's just not going to be in D&D Beyond if you didn't have it before.
So Death Strike is our 17th level at Capstone. Slightly different, much improved, my notes say.
Yeah, when you hit with a sneak attack on the first round of combat, the target must succeed on a con save, or the attack's damage is doubled against that target.
Before starting 17th level, you become a master of instant death. When you attack and hit a creature, surprise, it makes a Constitution saving throw. On failed save, the double damage. They take double damage against the creature. So now they don't have to be surprised. Before they at least had to have the surprise condition,
Right.
um, for it to take effect. So that barrier has been removed.
Right. Now, in both instances, um, the question arises, and I believe you're probably going to, feel the same way that I am, based off of its wording. I make an attack on the first round of combat. The wording says nothing about a crit. So if I actually crit and they fail their dex saving throw, is it a times 4, a times 3, or just a times 2?
Yeah, I feel and that this is one of the reasons why I think they nerfed the assassinate ability to begin with.
Uh-huh.
Because you've already like because it already made it a crit, right?
Right.
So you had a crit and a doubling, so they stacked. And I'm pretty sure in our games we played it 4 times. Like
Mm-hmm. Yep.
we doubled and then you doubled it again. In our games, that's probably what we do because it's ridiculous and why not? Like
Because
the
at the
the
end of the
player
day,
the player playing the rogue gets to look at everyone else and go, "Of course, guys, I'm the rogue. I'm just better than the rest of you."
so yeah, that's the moment of like, all right,
And
this
then
is this is
the wizard permanently wishes them to into the deadliest chicken that ever lived.
Well, you can definitely do that too. Uh, but if we get through all of Rogue, don't you can bring back up the concept of wish, as I did something uh very ridiculous in my D&D game this past Friday.
What? I can't believe it. So now we're looking at the Soul Knife, and yes, this is the first edition, other than first edition, where psionics are really basically incorporated into the game from the very beginning. Although I feel like this is one of the lamer versions of psionics. Like some cool subclasses are created, and there's some cool things, but it doesn't really feel like psionics very much.
I would agree. But I will take what little piece that they gave me
Yeah.
because psionics is core in the 2024 edition, and that means that there is hope for more of it, even though that hope is very, very small.
Yeah. Should have did a psionic subclass for everyone. And a
I could,
barbarian.
but
Um So Soul Knife, Psionic Power. So most of this stuff is very similar to how it came out in Tasha's Cauldron to everything. There was one exception to the Sonic Power, um, and before it used to be after a short rest you could use a bonus action to regain a psionic die. Now it's after a short rest you just regain a die, and if you take a long rest you regain them all. And I believe that ability to regain one die was like a one-time thing. So now their dice replenish much faster, and their sonic die powers most of what they do. Under sonic powers at third level they get side bolstered knack, and it hasn't changed from original. Psychic whispers is also the same, although I feel like the original language is a little bit clearer on how it worked than the new one.
which I find a little sad that they didn't clean it up, whereas
Yeah.
they've cleaned up other things.
Well, I will say, like, the overall presentation of how it works, like, the chart is much easier to understand, it is easier to look at and reference than the way it was before because it was just written out in Tasha's. So that part is nice, but it was a lot more lengthier for Psychic Whispers, but it just like it called out certain things. Like you got like one of the things it called out is in order to create this telepathic bond, you didn't have to share a language. You just had to know a language.
Right.
Where with this version, it doesn't say one way or another. If you speak Dwarven and they speak Elven, and you do the telepath link in each other, where in the previous version, like you just read it and you go, yes, they do because that's what it says. But now, it'll just be up to the DM, I guess.
So yeah, at that point in time, it does become a DM's adjudication, which I would rule in the favor of the players, where if it doesn't say you can't understand each other unless you share a language, you speak in concepts, not necessarily in language. Therefore, you would understand each other. But
Everything's a
that's
Pictionary.
that's my ruling, my rule call. Just because, like, to me that makes the most sense and allows the game to be far more useful, or the ability to be far more useful. I don't want to punish the players who are trying to use their ability to you know make the game more feasible.
So Psychic Blades is the same with a couple addendums. Before, your Psychic Blades did not have a long range, and now they do. And now they gain the Vex Mastery, and you get it for free. So, um, as a Soul Knight, you probably wouldn't bother taking Vex as one of your masteries because
Mhm.
whenever you use your Soul Knives, you're just gonna have it. So there's that. Also, at ninth level, you get Soul Blades, which gives you homing strikes and psychic teleportation. They're the same exactly as they were. Psychic Veil the same, and Rend Mine are the same. So all you have to do is go back. You can, and the reason why we're not going into depth on those because we've really discussed all those when those subclasses came out, and kind of like gave a breakdown and analyzed it. So
All in all, it's still a good class. Still happy with it.
Well,
as
no
is?
matter how
Is it as
shitty a subclass is for the rogue, you're still a rogue, right? So
you're still built off of one of the top tier classes of the game? I mean, heck, I think you could honestly play a rogue with no subclass,
no, you would hardly
and
make a difference.
it wouldn't make that big a difference. Sure, the extra stuff is nice, but I mean, you're talking about 3, 9, 13, 17 of abilities. So like 4 things, 5 things that you don't get when you look at the vast array that you would normally get. It's good stuff.
Yeah. So last but not least, we have the thief.
So I mean, I don't think anything here changed
There, there,
immensely.
there's
Uh,
some changes. Fast hands is the third level ability, mostly the same with one important change.
what does that change?
That's a very good question, Ted. So now, so let's see, what is that change? Um, but not in order. So before it was starting at third level, you can use your bonus action granted by the cunning action to make a dexterity sleight of hand check. You use thief tools to disarm a trap, open a lock, or use an object action. Um, Now you can take the utilize action or take the magic action to use a magic item that requires that action. So being able to activate a magic item as your bonus action is a pretty big deal.
So for getting that at third level, that is fairly fantastic. If you have an assortment of items at your disposal that do require that specific wording.
But it's going to
um
scale. Like that ability is going to scale
sure.
as you get access to more stuff.
Right.
Um, Second story work. I think there was a slight change to that. I feel like it's improved but similar. So when you choose this archetype at third level, you gain the ability to climb faster than normal. Climbing no longer costs you an extra movement. Now you just get a climb speed. The climb speed, in my opinion, is better than not the wording is better than just not having your speed reduced because to me it infers you still have to make climb checks. A climb speed does not require a climb check.
Correct. And if there is the chance that something could be climbed, you just climb it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've used that to some fairly decent points in your current game. I'm like, well, I've got this thing from my ridiculous race of the simic hybrid. So I was like, well, I'm looking for opportunities to make this weird ability useful. And it's like, oh, let me just climb this wall. I'll get out of melee reach of these dudes.
But
Works for me.
in addition, when you make a running jump, the distance covered increases by a number of feet equal to your dexterity modifier. This is the old ability. So, like, that's going to give you an extra 3 to 5 feet of jump, right?
Yeah.
Compared to now, you just use your dexterity, which to
Instead
me,
of your strength.
instead of your strength, which is probably going to be much better.
Unless you're playing a strength based rogue, which if you are, why are you playing a thief?
Yes.
This is definitely a far better choice for you because it is a
It leads into
more
your strength.
grandiose, right? Because it's based off of your strength score. Well, in this case, your dexterity score rather than your modifier. So that's good.
So, ninth level, Supreme Sneak. Same name, different feature.
So now, when you gain a new ability for your cunning strike, you can do a stealth attack. If you have the hide action's invisible condition, the attack doesn't end that condition on you if you end your turn behind 3/4 or total cover, which is holy crap, good stuff.
Yeah, you get to stay hidden, which is super hot. And what you used to get is Supreme Sneak. You had advantage on dexterity stealth checks if you move no more than half your speed on the same turn. Yeah, I think the other one is better.
You think having advantage on your stealth checks is
No,
better?
I think not being
Oh, the new one.
revealed. Yeah, I think not
Yeah,
being
yeah, yeah, yeah.
revealed is better. Um, Yeah, someone mentioned the skulker, and that's exactly what I thought as well. But a lot of times, like I didn't think the skulker feat in itself was quite good enough to take, right? Like it had some interesting things, but they're kind of niche. Where like just getting this as a class feature, much better. So, use magic device is the 13th level. Same name features are related but different.
So I love the new abilities. They're pretty fantastic. You can turn up to 4 magic items. Whenever you use a magic item property that expends the charges, you roll a d6. On a roll of a 6, you do not use any of the charges. You use the property, but no charges are expended, which is awesome. And you can use spell scrolls using intelligence as your spellcasting ability for the spell. If it's a level 1 spell that you can cast reliably, all right, if it's a cantrip or level 1 spell, you can cast it reliably. If it contains something higher, you can make an intelligence arcana check. DC is 10 plus the spell's level. Successful check, you can cast a spell from the scroll. Bad part is on a failed check, the scroll disintegrates.
Well, let's face it, you're a rogue. You're getting this ability at 13th level. Is that a plus 5? 13th level?
Uh, it's either 4 or 5.
Let's go with
Scroll.
4. We'll just say 4. You take expertise in Arcana because you're that kind of rogue. That's an 8. It's intelligence based, and you have other things to do, so you only have
Yeah.
a plus 2. That's a plus 10, right? So you need a 9 or better to cast Wish as a rogue.
All right. So at 13th level, it is a +5.
Oh, make it a 7 or
So
better, right? And that's if
so
you don't have a high intelligence.
So, if you say, all right, I've taken expertise in Arcana, and I've got a +1 modifier as an 11, and you've got reliable talent. So therefore, anything
Oh yeah, you
less,
can't even fail.
you can't fail. If you've taken expertise in Arcana, you can't fail. If
Now,
you didn't take expertise in Arcana, but you're at least proficient because you're a freaking thief that's going to use magic items. All right, and you've got a 1 in intelligence, which whatever. That's still a 16, which means you could reliably use up to 6 level spells without a problem.
now,
Yeah.
what it used to be, one, it was that also 2 lines, right? That was it before. But I'm actually torn as to which one I prefer. Before use magic device, you learned enough about the workings of magic that you can improvise the use of items even when they're not intended for you. You ignore all class, race, and level requirements on the use of magic items. Now, my caveat to that is like this is really good and
Mhm.
might be better with the caveat of, well, we haven't looked at how they've changed magic items in this version of 5e. If they
Right.
removed a lot of those requirements, then this is meaningless anyway, and
Right.
what they have now is much better.
Well, I would take the getting the ability to attune to 4 magic items, the ability to use any scroll, and charges off of things might not actually get expended.
Yeah.
Over being able to ignore restrictions.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
well, let's think about that, right? Restrictions like Staff of Power, the Staff of the Woodlands, like
sure,
rods,
sure,
like there's a ton of stuff that are restricted that you could pull out and be like, "Yep, I'm pretty much as powerful as a mage with this staff."
sure. There's a handful of things that if you happen to have, but like I find like a lot of the times when those things show up, you know, you've got someone in the party who's going to be able to manipulate it better than you. Now, yeah, okay. Over the course of 30 plus years of playing, there's maybe half a dozen times where we've gotten a really potent magic item
Yeah.
that nobody in the party can use, and we've had to figure out what we're actually going to do with it. Sure. Um, but those things are few and far between.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, to me, I'm torn as to which ability I like better. They're both really good. So like I wouldn't complain about either, to be honest with you.
Sure.
Like you said, having another attunement slot is really cool. Um, but also being able to use things that are uber powerful that you normally couldn't Also pretty cool.
So I guess that all of that is going to boil down to
What shows
what
up in
type
your
of game,
game?
what shows up in your game, what kind of game are you playing, what kind of DM do you have? Because sure, like getting a fourth attunement slot is really amazing, but utterly useless if your DM is not giving you enough magic items that require attunement.
Or if
Like for the artificer who can make them, sure, like that is all fun and games and great. But for the rogue who's not making any, like that means, all right, how am I getting stuff that requires attunement to use this ability that I got?
so 17th level, they got a really cool ability, and it got slightly cooler. You're adept at laying ambushes and quickly escaping danger. You take 2 turns during the first round of any combat. You take your first turn at normal initiative and the second one at -10. Super cool. The only difference is the last one required it to be a surprise round.
So obviously a power up, a change, a better. Uh, I
Well,
love things like this, because like this isn't even action surge. It's no, I get a full extra turn. That's movement, action, bonus action. I can do it all, baby. And when you layer all of that into all the things that a rogue can do, the only limitation is you still only have one reaction.
yeah.
uh, but wait, no, you get another turn. So I get a reaction until the start of my turn. So I can use a reaction in between my first and my second turn, and I get it back because it's my turn again. Therefore, that refreshes too.
Yeah.
So you
So
you get it all, baby.
it's really good, and they took away the limiting factor, which I kind of agree with. Like, it kind of sucks to have cool abilities that work some of the time,
Right.
where other classes have abilities that are cool and work all the time, right? Now, in the case of
Mhm.
the rogue, you can fuck them over a little bit because they're so good. Uh, but but as a whole, I prefer like to have the cool thing. Even like the soul knife, where like they can use their psionic die to do stuff, and a
Mhm.
lot of times it's on a fail. But then if they use their psionic die and it doesn't affect the outcome, and they still fail, then they don't expend it, right?
Yes.
Because they get a limited number of them anyway. So to me, I kind of like that kind of stuff, and a lot of that has been reworked. Where one of the problems with D&D can be is like it's your turn, and sometimes your turn is like the end of the Indiana Jones Covenant of the Ark, right? Where nothing you did actually mattered because nothing actually happened, right? You rolled bad,
Right.
whatever. Well, at least in a lot of instances with this version of D&D, when that happens, you don't in addition to nothing actually have happened, you don't expend the resource as well.
And that to me is awesome. I mean, I know there's probably going to be a lot of people out there who are going to complain about how vastly different this is from uh you know additions in the past, that like, no, I have to use my things. And how long before, oh well, I expend a spell slot and my opponent passes saving throw, does that mean I get to keep my spell slot? There is a slippery slope. um but all in all, for these instances, I do like these kind of things because it's far more precious of a resource at the lower levels. um sure, the soul knife eventually was rolling 12 d12s for their psionic dice at 17th level. So sure, that's going to take a lot longer to go through those. But at the low levels at 3, when you only have 4 of them, you can burn through those in a combat or two and be like, I need dice. So if it's not being expended, you can get to keep them.
So all in all, the Rogues was good, and it's still good.
Completely agree.
And it's I wouldn't say it necessarily got better, but it did get more versatile because that's what the Rogue needed.
Yeah, more versatility for
More
the
more options.
the damage dealing skill monkey.
Yeah. All right. What were you talking? Oh, so real quick, PAX Unplugged is coming up this weekend, and I will be there all 3 days. You can come find me if you like. Our standing thing is if you show up with enough people to play a game, chances are pretty good. As long as we're not on our way to do something, we'll stop and play a game with you.
Yeah, if you can wrangle some people together,
Mm.
we're definitely down for it. I'll be planning to have some stuff for Zoo Mafia or D&D. Um, we try to make people happy. I'm hoping to be there all 3 days, but I'm also as I kind of started off at the beginning here, I'm beat. Work has been really killing me these last couple of weeks. So I make no promises, but the plan is to be there.
Well, are you working any of those days?
No, no, I have Thursday to recover, and then I'm working. Then I'll be at the convention Friday, Saturday, and hopefully Sunday.
Okay, so you took Thursday off.
I That was the only way that I was going to be able to get Friday
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Saturday
I did
because
the same.
I was actually on the schedule for today through Saturday
Yeah.
again.
Oh, six. Yeah,
So
they've been killing you with that 6 days.
yeah, yeah.
Oh man,
So
what were you saying about? Oh, and also, so that's this weekend coming up, PAX Unplugged, but also from the 16th to the 19th, we will be in Oaks, PA, at the Expo Center there, for Page Two. We're
yeah,
special
looking.
guests, so come. We're also running games of D&D and Zoo Mafia there, so you can sign up for those games, or probably again just find us, probably play some games.
Yeah, I do crazy things, and I've been hemming and hawing. Like we played a game, it was back in September or end of August is when the kids game, they slew a dragon. But because of how long the dragon fight took, they didn't get a chance to actually look at any of the treasure.
Hmm.
So while I had started off making the horde, I didn't complete it. And
Oh,
therefore that gave me
you
a
turned
lot
the
of time
You turned the horde into another adventure, basically, another
into a whole
dungeon.
session.
Yeah.
It's a whole session of exploring the dragon's horde. It was a lot of fun. Everybody but my daughter loved it.
Ah.
The daughter liked it, but there wasn't combat. While there was conflict and challenge,
Hmm.
there was no fight, and therefore she was like, "Yeah, I wasn't into it as much."
So she is the bloodthirsty one, huh?
Yeah, yeah. So I had debated of like tossing a scroll of wish into the pile to see what they might do with it. And then as I let this thought percolate, an idea struck me, and I'm like, this is really stupid. I have to do it. Now, if you go through various iterations of D&D, there are a number of things, even in D&D Beyond, like there is the living lightning bolt. It's a monster. It's a construct that can be fought. Um, but I'm like, how how stupid is it to make a living wish spell?
Yeah.
So I created this wish spell that's trapped in a magical cage that they they have to basically, it's a puzzle that they're going to have to figure out. There are layers of enchantments upon it. They broke through the first one, which was a permanent silent spell, so the wish couldn't talk to them. Now it
Uh-huh.
can. So I've got this whole mini arc planned for this thing, and eventually they might find a way to break open the cage and release a living wish upon the world, and whatever good or bad that might cause.
Nice. Is that like a genie? Like,
Yeah, it's it's better and worse than a genie. Like, I, because I knew they weren't going to be able to get to it, I'm still workshopping exactly what it means. But conceptually, I know like it's a wish spell, which means it's not bound as much as other magic might be. And they learned that wizards, like a cabal of wizards, worked together to trap this thing because it was running rampant and it was too powerful.
yeah.
uh,
Sounds like so.
So,
I see. I feel like there's going to be some hijinks ensuing very shortly once they crack the code. So with that, it is that time. But we will be back here tomorrow. Hopefully, we missed the last 2 weeks of Ted Zoo Mafia game. His take on Zoo Mafia meets Zootopia, basically.
indeed,
So come check us out tomorrow. And until next time, stay nerdy.
stay nerdy.